All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the weekly Subspace protocol sync. We talk about the backend substrate protocol for Subspace and the farmer. Today, we're going to go around and get updates from everybody on what they've been working on. Nazar, we're going to let you start off.
Okay, let me probably move some things around and share the screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so the first fix for the issue we had on the testnet was just increasing the number for big K. We have worked basically a little bit beyond this number, and when we switched to the other branch, some of the older blocks beyond this K were basically not up to date anymore, and the other nodes that were joining the network basically were not able to verify the data. So this was easy fix. The other problem was a little bit more trickier. Basically,
I have a question on that, Nazar.
Yeah.
Right now in Substrate, what happens, or I guess in the consensus palette, and this should be based on how Babe works, what happens from a randomness point of view if there is a fork deeper than the current epoch lookback for randomness? Is that accounted for, or do you get one of these problems as well?
It is actually, because Substrate stores state as of every block, including all of the forks. So basically different branches will have different state. So if it switches from one branch to another, it will just have all of the different randomness and stuff.
Okay, but the archiver is not working off that same pattern.
No, archiver is intentionally slightly behind, so it never gets into that awkward situation, but in this case it did. Okay.
I was just wondering if we had something similar, like if it just worked off, because I mean these numbers are like 10, 100, you know, they're kind of sketchy numbers.
That's just, to do proper value here.
Yeah. Okay. It just seems like, you know, if the look back period, the epoch randomness look back is long enough, then like with high probability, that should never fork the epoch randomness. So it probably, maybe that's an acceptable value.
Yeah. We'll figure out sooner or later what this number should be. Any other questions here? Okay. So the other problem was different, but also similar. Well, similar in terms of it broke the network, but the effect was different because basically it was crashing the whole node and farmer for that matter. The reason was the logic that we have here. I'll expand the code a little bit. No, I need to expand in the other place. Okay. Let me just open the file separately. Interesting. Should be record size. Yeah. So basically, the code here, what it does, it detects when we need to split our, let's say, block or continuation of the block, because it doesn't fit into the segment, right? So what we do, we calculate where we need to split it. We take some bytes after that point that will be carried over into the next segment. We truncate the current bytes that we have to some length, and we do the same about objects, because we can have some objects in those blocks, right? And the logic is the following. We again have this object mapping objects vector that has some things, and you basically get the same point, and everything that is before that point, that means every object that starts before this point in the bytes of the block will be left as is, everything else will be drained into the next one, right? And because this check was incorrect, it was taking all of the blocks that should have been at the beginning of the next segment and left them in the previous one, right? And where it was failing, thanks to Rust, because Rust is very picky about those things. When we tried, so here is like the other piece of logic. Basically, we have a segment, we have some offset of that object in the segment that we've computed. And then we check on which record within that segment the object falls, right? And if our offset was like just after the segment, when we divide by the record size, we get basically a number of the index of the last record plus 1. That's how it works. And it was trying to access the item which doesn't exist here, so it was panicking because we are trying to access non-existent entry. So the fix was just to add equals. So everything that is more than split point or at split point, so it starts in the next segment, should be carried over forward. So this basically check was incorrect in 2 places, and that was the whole fix. I also changed the order slightly, how it is like in the binary, the ordering of things. And then actually another tricky part was to write a test. So I created like a sample block archiver, added some like small blocks that just is slightly bigger than the segment, because we have some overhead on the like wrapping for the data. So segment size is slightly more than segment in practice. And then we add another block with some object mapping. So we have an object with an offset which is computed, and there is a piece of documentation of how it's computed and why, such that it starts precisely at the segment with index 2. And then here we are checking that we have index 1 and index 2 for the archived segments. So we've archived 1 segment here. The length is 1. And then we archived 2 more. The very first one of those doesn't have any objects, so we carried it over into the next one. And here we check that the next one actually has something. It's exactly 1 object there. And it was really like hard to write a formula for the actual offsets, what the offset should be. So I just hard-coded the value. If we change implementation somewhere in significant way, this will fail. This is like last resort, because potentially the implementation can change, and this will be carried over into the next segment, but it will not be at the beginning of the next segment. So then the test will pass, but it will not actually protect us from regressions. So this is why I've added at the last moment just 1 more check to be sure. And this is also just a refactoring. It's nothing too important, but the fix here was that it wasn't storing the last archived block on the farmer side until we sync all of the blocks up until the block at the moment when we join the network from the farmer. So now it updates after every block. So yeah, hopefully it makes sense where the issue came from and why. Questions here? Okay, I assume not. One other small update was related to the fact that we, for a little while, we required every node to be validator to actually verify blocks. That was in practice not something we wanted. So just added this authoring enabled parameter to a few things. And when we try to submit the extrinsic to the transaction pool, basically, before doing that, we are just checking that we are in the authoring mode. So we are actually producing blocks, and otherwise unsigned extrinsic doesn't make any sense. That check is in 2 places. And we are doing the archiving process as usual on the full node. We're just not submitting this extrinsic. So we can verify all of the blocks and stuff, but we do not actually submit extrinsics because we don't need them for verification purposes. And this allows us to not be in the archiving mode, in validator mode on the full node that, for instance, provides RPC. We can just have a regular full node. Yeah.
Sorry, what's the difference between a validator node and a full node in Substrate?
Validator node is the node that produces blocks. So, for instance, onslaught event, let's say, is not fired on the regular full node. It just receives blocks produced by someone else and verifies them.
Okay,
Validator,
so
will
validator
run
means
this timer and issue challenges and stuff. Yeah.
okay, so validator means block producer, whereas full node
Yeah,
just
it's
means,
just Substrate terminology. I hope we can modify it in the future to call like
Yeah.
farming mode or something.
yeah, because validation to me seems like what a full node should already do, but I guess that's just Substrate terminology.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will show you in progress stuff. So this is about vesting palette. There are some related things. So first commit was just to add the palette itself, ORML vesting. I actually created the fork of it. It's a very simple fork. I just created a branch that corresponds to the Substrate monthly snapshot, because released versions are they depend on the released versions of Substrate, which is not what we use, and they have they usually update it in the repository to target versions which are for specific Polkadot releases, which again is not something we use. So this is basically a snapshot of the master as of October, and we'll switch to November. And that's why we need to maintain the library. There is really no changes other than versions in the cargo tomls, so it's not a big fork. The integration is relatively simple. We have parameters. This is a parameter basically says in case we are doing transfer that has vesting on it, so you can like transfer some balance to someone, but they will not be able to use it until some schedule expires. So we basically don't have any limit. Why? Because we basically forbid that feature to be used by anyone. Vesting transfer origin is never, so we do not allow anyone to ever use it. We might want to enable it in the future, we'll see. But for that, you'll probably need something like Pilot Treasury. And then number of vesting schedules. I think this is like memory optimization thing in Substrate. They basically have a vector for schedules, which is limited in size. So this is like a max value, which is checked in some places. And we have like two parts. One is the initial cliff and then per month release. So this is why the number is 2. Currency is the same as regular balances in our system. And yeah, there is nothing really special here. We just added, this is for consistency, I reordered this imports, added palette vesting. And in here, in the Genesis configuration, we have for now an empty list of schedules for everyone. But I've tested that it actually works. I just did some tests locally. So this is the initial integration. I then added some information about token for the Polkadot.js. So it turns out, I didn't know it before, these properties, they are actually, some of them are at least are read by the front end. So you can specify how many decimal places you have in here. We have 18. And you can specify the custom name for your token. So I just hard-coded in this, not hard-coded, it's actually the testnet spec. So it's T subspace credits. And this allows us to show the correct units in the front end, because if we assume that we have 18 decimal places and we specify the schedule that releases so many tokens, but then front end thinks it's 12, it will be showing like billions and trillions, which is incorrect. So this is the change for that. And next, I've added the root account for the testnet. This is the account that we have in Bitwarden that me and Jeremiah and someone else maybe has access to. This basically will allow us to switch from Alice, which meant that anyone basically was able to do anything on the test network. We are making it a little bit more serious. And yeah, this is the simple change. This is just for the testnet. So if you want to modify something significant or issue tokens out of thin air on the testnet, this is what you need to have access to. And then I've defined constants for the units. So 1 Shannon is the smallest unit on the network for balances. And 1 subspace credit is 10 to the power of 18 Shannons. And these constants are now used in the chain spec. So for instance, I've said that 1,000 subspace credits is assigned to root account, Alice and Bob on the testnet.
I was also thinking maybe we should have a say too as a credit or like as a unit, like a TSC.
I don't know.
Just an idea. You guys know, everybody knows who Claude Shannon is, right? Please. If not, you need to leave.
Yeah, actually on Polkadot side, it's kind of confusing to me. They have naming which is similar to like fiat currency naming. This is wrong folder. But they actually have different like fractions. So they have units. Is some pull request. Yeah, Gavin actually renamed it. And then there are cents, which is not 100th of this, but there is thousands for some reason. And then there is 1 grand, which is 10,000 of cents. Doesn't make too much sense to me. At least millicents, kind of logical. But use them for this deposit feature, which is something related to staking in the runtime, which you don't have. So we might want to define something like this, but to me, it seems confusing. And they also changed what the cents value is at some point. It was like 300, I think, at some point. So yeah, it's, I don't know. You might want to define some more units for convenience, but we'll see. Yeah, and I've done a bunch of research around all this stuff, how it actually works. And there are some also pending changes which are dependent on the pull request into the registry. There is one more branch. Testnet updates. Yeah, primarily the prefix, but also information in the. I didn't push it. There's another piece of information that is basically the same thing, but in the properties that I showed before. Yeah, I think that's all I should say about this.
Any thoughts, Liu-Cheng? I know you've already gone through this whole exercise with ChainX before. Any lessons learned there or pointers?
So will you change the pre-funded accounts for the testnet, for the public testnet?
This is not public. This is the testnet that we have right now.
Okay, so I mean, for the testnet, for the semi-public testnet, so Alice Bob I'm not sure they should be the pre-funded. Like,
I agree with you, but on the other hand, the way Relayer works right now, it expects Alice account to be there.
Okay.
So we have some dependencies we need to figure out before we can move.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Nazar? Is there anything else you wanted to go through, Nazar?
Okay. I have a related question. That is, so we have the confirmation depth, and so when will we have the finality, stuff, something like that?
Oh,
Before we have, something like the finality. So we are just like a Bitcoin, depending on the confirmation, right?
yeah, there were a few discussions between me and Jeremiah about this. Basically, finality is a misused word in the context of what finality is in most places, at least. So even in Polkadot, finality is actually not final answer. There can potentially be a fork, and the chain may potentially have to switch. I'm not sure if not everyone realizes that or understands or expects that to ever happen, but this is technically what it is.
But you have to know that the exchange, all the exchanges relies on the finality. They listen to the finalized
that's like
block.
the problem. Like everyone thinks it's
Yeah.
finalized, like it's like in the name of the RPC endpoint and stuff. Like everyone thinks it's actual like the final solution. So like if it's finalized, it's like forever. But in practice, it's not technically that way. This is not what finality achieves. It's basically for confirmation latency improvement. So in our case, we need something even stronger. The current working idea that I like the most is that we basically need to figure out what the depth should be. And we can specify a depth that is so large, that is when we have the proof of time added to the protocol. The depth should be so large that will basically be the same, like the difficulty of breaking it will be the same as difficulty of the hash function, something like SHA-256. So we can have hundreds of bits of security on them. And at that point, we can say, yes, it is probabilistic, but it is as probable as guessing the private key of Satoshi Nakamoto. So we kind of expect that will never happen. So that is like the working idea. The numbers that we have right now, we're just testing it, basically. If you have like 10,000 blocks PK, then on the testnet, you'll have a very, very, very long time before you have anything plotted on the farmer side, which is inconvenient, let's say.
So what's the expected time, like the duration? You mean a huge enough number, huge enough confirmation, like half a day,
no, it will be much
10
more.
minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes is what we're targeting.
Okay.
Basically, you have proof of time. You need to spend physical, real world time, approximately of that amount to actually like catch up with the network. So if you are significantly past a specific point in time, then we assume that no one will ever able to catch up, and that's how we get this number from.
So it's okay. 10 minutes is acceptable.
Yeah, and we'll see. It might be even less. We'll see what the parameters of the network will be, but that's the idea how it will work eventually.
Yeah, we're probably going to have like almost a threefold, whatever we want to call it. Like I don't even know. There's probably some new word that needs to be invented for this because it's really not finality. It's not confirmation. It's just like certainty or something like that, degree of certainty. The first is the proof of time, which is unpredictable and maybe has a few seconds of maybe predictability, I guess, and is hard to invert, like cryptographically hard. Then there is some kind of farmer confirmation speed up, we're going to get doing something like Prism voter chains or the Taiji protocol that David C produced, which is going to increase by like orders of magnitude the confirmation latency. And then on top of that, we may still have like some grandpa based finality gadget, or like accountability gadget is a better word. Finality is a bad word. Accountability or confirmation latency speed up gadget that the executors could run on top of that. And then the client could decide, well, if I believe that 2/3 of the executors are honest, then I can assume, like an exchange, for example, then I can go with this. So there's probably going to be layers to this. Proof of time will be the first one implemented. It's uncertain if a Taiji based speed up or a grandpa based speed up will be implemented next. That's something that actually we need to discuss at the next offsite in a lot more detail.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that one thing is the confirmation latency for the client, which in worst case they will lose money. In this case, it should be like very, very, very certain. Otherwise, we break the network as we've broke it like 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So this is like different guarantee requirement that we have here for archiving. Or else we need to design archiver in such a way that it can like roll back to some state and then move forward and replot everything. And I guess that's also an option, but we'll see.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a shortcut that we have right now in the development path, but we could always we could handle this. It's just tricky within Substrate.
Yep. And like one thing that I just wanted to mention quickly, we have this standard number from Substrate template, which is 500 minimum units for the existential deposit. Basically, any account that has this much or less, or I think strictly less, they will be deleted from the state, and all the information about them will be deleted. We've increased this by quite a bit, from 12 to 18, and it's unknown what the actual coin price will be. So it's a good discussion point for some point in the future what this existential deposit should be. Like, should it be approximately 1 cent or anything much less? I don't know. Depends on what kind of use cases you're targeting, but this is also an interesting number to figure out. This is like really, really small, assuming the coin is like $1 or $1,000. It's like immeasurably small. That's it from my side.
Thanks, Nazar. Any other questions or comments from Nazar? Okay, Liu-Cheng, would you like to go next, please?
Okay, so I'll just start with the documentation. So no solid progresses, just the implementation details of Subspace. And I have included the document. So,
Hey, Liu-Cheng, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. You're breaking up. Do you want to go to just audio only? Or have you got it set so that you've only got one input video right now?
okay. Is it better?
A little bit. No, not.
I think it got better.
Yeah, it's better. It just took it a second. Now we can hear you clearly.
Okay. So I believe I can share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, so we're just so please open the. I will share text it. So you can just open this page and go to the Substrate exploration section. So when the one thing we need to take care of the
Liu-Cheng, sorry. Okay. This is about decoupled execution.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move that discussion to a separate call with just you, me, and Nazar. just
Okay.
in the interest of time. This, like, I'd love to have this discussion. I just don't think we have time to give it justice today. We should have like a whole hour call just on this research.
Okay. Okay. So
Maybe we
so
can just talk
now-
about the PRs that you've submitted in the last week, or that have been
Okay.
merged, and just what's changed in the code, if anything.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Sorry about the confusion there.
So basically, all the pairs are also like reflectors, like this. So I don't use that is some is a PR.
You're breaking up again, Liu-Cheng.
It's even more
Okay.
confusing without video.
Yeah. Do you have your input video set to just one, or even turned off?
Yeah, I just do one video.
Thank you, Great Firewall of China, for making our lives so difficult.
Okay, so could you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a look at the PR H8.
Are you sharing the screen? Because I don't see any.
Nope. I believe I'm not
I think
allowed
it's not
to
going to work
share.
if he tries to share. He's going to have even worse issues. If you can just share a link to the PR in the chat that you're on.
Okay. So last week I sent like seven, six or seven PRs, and I just pick a few of them. Like this one, I want to share with you like the constructor runtime. Previously, we didn't specify the code index for the items in the constructor runtime. And
To the very bottom.
yeah. Let me. Yeah, at the bottom. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So previously we didn't specify the code index for each item in the constructor runtime, and the advantage of specifying each code index is to ensure that when we removing or adding some pellets, the existing old pellets won't be changed in terms of the encodes and the decodes, particularly the per transaction core index won't be changed. Like the last one, the sudo pellet, basically we will remove it when the mainnet is fully operational, and we can just remove it from the constructor runtime completely without having any impact on the core index of each pellet. We put it as the last, and we set a larger number of the code index for sudo pellet. And the one, okay. Another thing I want to mention is that we allow 7 points 3.75 megabytes for the normal extrinsic. Still in the PR88.
Is it in the same commit?
Yeah.
Go to files changed in line 184.
Yes, thank you, Nazar, for sharing this screen.
That's Jeremiah. I'm just instructing where to scroll.
Oh, sorry. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jeremiah.
I'm just trying to stay along here. Okay, I think we're in the spot.
Thank you. Could you scroll down a few more lines? Yeah. 2009, we allow for 3.75 megabytes for normal extrinsic. That is the transaction size limit for the the put transaction. Okay. And the other PRs are like, see, it's all trivial changes like the documentations and okay, this one is interesting. Okay, let me. The PR85. Okay, this one is interesting. I'll just pick a few of them. I'm not go through all of them. Okay, so previously I basically have no idea about the peers, like records, like segments, how exactly they are in subspace, and after reading this the code in code primitives, I basically have a fuzzy idea. And yeah, just some refactorings to make it more safe to really can be more meaningful meanings by code, like the code root, like yeah, just some refactorings basically. Nothing fancy, I would say. Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Are we still on that one? Sorry, I thought you were done with that one. Or are you done with your update?
Yeah. Nothing fancy on my end. Mostly the refactorings.
Okay. Any questions for Liu-Cheng? Okay, Ozgun, you're up next.
Yeah, sure. Share the screen. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, code-wise, there's not much going on, because for the refactoring, I had to learn so many things. But to give the brief idea, now there's a farming struct, and by the way, there is one more update to this So I will show another iteration of that. Actually, I can just show it. I just haven't been pushed it yet because we decided to make this version with Nazar just before the meeting, so I hadn't time. Okay. So basically there will be a struct of farming consisting of all the necessary informations along with a one-shot channel to be able to stop the farming. And all the other necessary things are also moved in here. And inside the farming, we will have a method called start. And this will basically start the background farming and then return an instance of the farming. And in the background farming, we will just raise the actual farming operation with the one-shot channel stop sign signal. And the other things will be just copy-paste from the previous farm.rs. And after that, like everything organized, I will make the same changes to plotting. But there is one more caveat in plotting, like in farming, we discussed it with Nazar, probably it's kind of impossible to leave farming in an inconsistent state when we stop the farming, but this is not true for the plotting. There is an edge case for when the plotting is done, but the commitment is not done for that piece. So I will take this edge case into consideration when implementing that. Other than that, as I said, like I was mostly learning.
Okay. So you don't have any PRs that have been submitted for review yet?
No, I had a draft one, and it's a very old version. It's not even worth to show it to you. So my current plan, my realistic plan, is to have a PR ready on before the next meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, and that's going to be for just
Plotting,
the farming struct or the farming and the plotting struct?
Plotting and farming.
Okay, cool. All right, any questions for Ozgun from the group? Okay, do you guys have any idea? I know Nazar does, but Serge and Liu-Cheng, do you guys actually understand what Ozgun is achieving here, or what we're going for?
Extracting farmer to a separate library, right?
Yes, and make it interruptible. Right now, it's going on in a background loop forever and ever.
Yeah, just trying to make it more composable and decoupled, I guess you could say, and programmable. Okay. All right. I think that's it for the. Or do you have any updates, Serge, on your side at all regarding feeds or anything like that?
No work on the protocol.
Okay. Okay.
I actually forgot to mention that they also updated Substrate to the October update, but that was very simple pull request.
Were there any significant upgrades?
I mentioned some of them to you directly, I think. They implemented this beef thing on top of Grandpa. Not sure if it's useful, but the code is there. There are some other things, but nothing groundbreaking. We'll see what November brings.
Okay. Okay. Let's take a few minutes to go over the board. I'll share my screen. All right. Okay. Update Rust documentation. Liu-Cheng. How far along are we on this right now?
Yeah, I would say 50 or 60%.
Okay. So you think it's going to take you about another week to complete this task?
You know, it's not a priority, so I would like to take it slowly
Okay.
and just spend more time on the other priority things, like the decoupled execution. If we like can make some progresses on the directions.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. Placeholder tokens.
Just
Nazar, do
getting
you have an-
numbers from Todd, and we'll submit a pull request.
Okay. All right, great. Still in progress. All right.
I just need code owners from high priority to complete it. Assign code owners. It's completed.
Okay, thank you, Ozgun. Okay, so this is what you're going to be working on tomorrow, right, Serge?
Yeah,
Okay, can I move that to in progress?
yeah. I think I've been working on that for like a week already.
Okay. Well, I mean, actually testing it, I guess, is what you're going to be working on tomorrow for Kusama.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see. So we got a bunch here. Let's just see. All these are for Nazar. Musicians. Local challenge from signature and subhash. Okay. Are these what you see as your next priorities right now, Nazar? These like closeout tasks that we covered, security related from the offsite?
It's hard to tell. I think the next step after resting will be to check why are we seeding the history so slowly on the relayer side. That seems to be a bigger pain point. I have an ugly idea how to verify that the piece is actually part of the history. Ugly because we don't have the actual network to fetch pieces from. So what we can actually do, we can instantiate another archiver. So okay, we can go to the runtime and retrieve a root block for a particular segment that the piece belongs to. Then we can start the archiver from that point, like archive all of the blocks that are necessary to build those pieces from the segment, and then we can extract the piece and verify the solution. But that would mean that for every solution, we will have to do a bunch of back and forth with the storage, which is probably not great. So that's why there is a solution, but it's ugly. And it will only work temporarily while we have the full archival history on every node. But hopefully by the time that's no longer the case, we will have the network to fetch pieces from.
Why do we have to? I mean, the encoding is included in the solution. Why do we have to fetch it from anywhere?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I was confused. So there are actually two related tickets. The first one is this, which is to verify that it's part of actual history.
Okay.
I think we just need to retrieve a root block for this, and we can verify it.
You mean retrieve a root block, like the Merkle root for a root block in the runtime?
Yes.
In the root table?
Yeah.
Okay,
And there
so
is
that should be pretty
other,
straightforward.
I tried to quickly do it, and it wasn't trivial, but I guess it might be. We'll see. So this
What
is
was-
like, okay.
Go ahead.
So this is for this ticket, but there is another ticket about not actually having piece in the solution itself. And for
Oh,
that,
that's
we
what
would
you
need
were
to do
talking
that ugly
about.
thing.
Okay, okay,
I
that
think
was
so.
the ugly solution.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
know,
actually
I'm sorry.
talking about, it's down here somewhere. Or maybe, I thought we had a ticket for that. Yeah,
That
this
should
one.
be- Yeah.
Succinct PORs.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now that I know what you're talking about, explain your solution one more time to me.
Right. So we need to get like a piece from somewhere. and we supposedly only know the index, right? So from index, we can know what segment it belongs to, so we can go into the runtime, which everyone should have.
Oh, you mean during the sync process?
No, that's when we have challenges, like or when we have solutions. So farmer sent a solution. How do we know the solution is actually part of the history?
Well,
It's-
didn't we
it's
say
about
we were
sync
going to
as well.
attach
It's
like
kind of the
an
same place where it's
auxiliary,
verified.
like extrinsic or something like that to this that you could use to verify? Well, but no, we can't do that because then that gets included in the. I mean, the
I
idea was
believe-
there was. Sorry, go ahead.
I believe in Substrate there is actually a way to attach a piece of data to the block that you need to clear before it's actually imported. But you cannot guarantee that it's always there. I don't think. Like, if it's a solution that was sent by the farmer, they can include it. But from the network, I'm not sure we can hook into the internals of Substrate and attach something to the block. Maybe, but I'm not aware of that. So basically, we
Isn't
need
there?
to have a way autonomously to fetch the piece autonomously.
What's the thing that palette timestamp uses? Or I mean, I'm alive. Isn't there like something called a not an extrinsic, but a what's the damn word in Substrate for it? It's something which you can choose to include or not to include. Like a timestamp is an example that you can ignore. I guess it's still included in the block, so that doesn't solve that problem.
There is like an additional metadata field. I don't remember. It's like auxiliary something where you can put some data. It's actually already used, but I'm not sure this is the use case for it.
Is
Like,
that
imagine that you sync from the network, from the archival node, and archival node no longer has those pieces, and you just get the block, so you'll not have that piece of data attached to it.
right? So that's the second problem. Like the first problem is how to do it in real time. The second problem is how to fix the sync or how to retain verification during sync. Which does require a either a network connection or the ability to read it from disk. But it seems like there should be a way. So back to this augs field that you were saying in the metadata field that exists. Is that something which does get committed to the state or gets like stored in the block?
No, it's actually an error to not clean it before import.
Okay, then why can't we just use that?
Well, if you sync, you need
Well, there's
to put data somehow in there, right?
right.
That's the
Right.
problem.
Okay, well there's two parts to this. Okay, I understand now. So first we can use the augs. Is it what is it called? Metadata or auxiliary data?
I don't remember. Let me check. Import.
Okay.
It's
So I'll let
called
you
intermediates.
intermediates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now there is only epoch descriptor there.
Okay. So we need to attach that data in the intermediates, and then that will handle the verification in real time. But then during the sync process, we have to
What do you mean by
retrieve
real time?
as the blocks are produced like live over the network.
Right, but then the question is whether we can attach some piece of information to the block that is gossiped. So one thing, if we produce the block, the other thing is someone produces a block and we need to modify the way Substrate sends those blocks, which I'm not sure is possible. And I don't think these intermediates are attached to it. This is like within a node implementation
Okay.
detail.
Okay, let's move. This is a long discussion. Let's move this to a separate thing that you and I can talk one-on-one on.
Okay.
But it sounds like there's a solution to this. So there's that problem. Verify the piece is actually part of history. That's easier. This should be pretty straightforward, right? Just VRF
Yeah.
sign the challenge.
Yeah.
This should be pretty straightforward, right? We just rehash the old epoch randomness. All right.
No, this is very far from trivial.
Oh, okay.
I already looked at most of these things.
Okay. This should be pretty trivial, right?
I didn't research it, how it even works in Substrate. I have no idea. It should be a standard thing.
Yeah, I would imagine that's pretty simple. Okay. Okay. Liu-Cheng, this is something that you had said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Have you started this at all yet, or have you thought more about it?
Not yet. I believe I'll work on this after fix the duplicated RPC types.
Okay. So this is higher priority.
Yeah, if we know higher priority items appear, when I'll work just the duplicated RPC types, the Genesis archiver, and the documentation PRs.
Okay. And you're also doing the research.
Yeah.
But I think we said we were going to start another board for that, so we can leave that off of here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. But we're aware that you're working on that in the background. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to put this one into in progress then?
Yeah.
Okay. And these two are related?
I think they are the same thing.
They're duplicates?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just remove this then. Okay. Okay, Ozgun, you are working on, we've got that tracked in a different board, but then we're going to be working on retrievability. I shouldn't try to solve offline.
This is the problem when you disconnect from the network, but you continue to produce blocks, and then it reaches value beyond k deep, and you can no longer join the network.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty serious problem for the test net as we have more nodes, right?
It is.
Okay. This is also another one, but this matters before incentivized testnet. Okay. Okay, so I think we've got enough from this board to work on. Is there anything else we need to cover here? Okay, let's go back to the farming board and we'll just talk about that briefly. Okay. Okay, so you said you're going to have both of these submitted by Wednesday, Ozgun?
That's my plan.
Okay, and then we're going to be working on, I guess we can go through that on the next call. Yeah, what are you going to start on next after you get these two submitted?
Yeah, we have already defined step 3.3, step 4, step 5 on medium priority. I guess I do have enough knowledge on step 4 and step 5, but for mock RPC clients, I will need some extra information. I don't know how to do it currently.
So we're not plotting pieces as they're generated, as they're archived anymore?
We have a separate archiving process on the farmer, so we don't really care about it.
So why is this ticket here? Is this just a leftover? So this is actually complete. We are plotting as they're coming across.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in a different way.
Do we need to refactor it to work over a subscription?
Probably not. At least not now.
Okay, I'm just going to move this to the backlog. I'm confused as to why this is even here right now. Okay, so after you finish these, Ozgun, you're blocked until we have another coordination meeting. You don't know what to do next.
If I can research on my own and learn it, it won't be a problem, but I don't even know what's ahead of me for mock RPC client. That's the issue.
Okay, when you get to it, just ping me and
Yeah, sure.
we'll discuss. It should be fairly simple.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's do, okay, I think we're good. Anything else we need to discuss as a group right now? Okay, great. All right, well, thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you guys again next week with more great updates. Thank you.